What book have you read that has forever changed the way you view or live life? Introduction to Linear Algebra. After the first chapter, I decided I was going to law school. Edit. While I have my 15 minutes of Reddit fame, it'd be dope if you could check out my band, Rolls-Royce. The Count of Monte Cristo. I have no idea what it did to me, but after I finished it I knew I was no longer the same person. I read The Phantom Tollbooth at a young age and it changed the way I viewed the world. One of my favorite quotes from the book, "So many things are possible just as long as you don't know they're impossible." Man's Search for Meaning. Everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. Viktor E. Frankl. In my opinion, it is a must-read. Dune. The pragmatism is real. It cuts through politics and religion like a hot knife through butter. It's like reading The Prince but applied to a very cool and original sci-fi world. The Shining made me realize I need to do something about my alcoholism. The self-sabotaging, the shitty marriage, the excuses. Jack Torrance is a massive piece of shit and I was identifying with him. Ender's Game. Summed up, it's not about winning, it's the way we win. Crime and Punishment by Dostoevsky. Geez, it's such a weird but in a good way book that really makes you reflect on morality. Of Mice and Men. Seriously scarring but effective. The Giver. I remember reading that book in 6th or 7th grade and just being blown away. I had never experienced a book like that before and it really had a huge impact on me. I'd add I Am the Cheese along with it. The Book Thief. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Les Miserables. It's just such a great story of redemption and duty and the letter of the law versus the spirit of the law. Javert and Jean Valjean are great character juxtaposition about what it means to really do the right thing. Siddhartha by Hermann Hesse or Jonathan Livingston Seagull by Richard Bach. Antoine de Saint-Exupéry's The Little Prince. It's quite short and can be read online as well. Every time I read it, I seem to derive a different lesson from it. HTML. PDF. To Kill a Mockingbird. Never read a single book. Not until my senior year in high school. I picked up Dean Koontz, The Key to Midnight, and actually read it cover to cover. Made me realize what I've been missing, and trying to make up for it. Night by Elie Wiesel. The Brothers Karamazov. Don't remember the exact quote, but something along the lines of, if God did not exist, man should have to invent him. It really challenged my nihilistic outlook on life and intense dislike for God. Not that I'm religious now, but more open-minded on the morality that God imparts. Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy made me completely perceive time and perspective differently. The complete works of Edgar Allan Poe. If I had to choose one story specifically, The Cask of Amontillado, it's an unbelievable journey into vengeance and patience. Be good to people cause they hold grudges. Another really fitting one for these times would be The Pit and the Pendulum. It shows the suffering an individual can endure merely because they are a member of a certain group. The Lorax. Educated. I have never outright bawled my eyes out from reading a book over multiple occasions. This one made me really appreciate my parents as people, value how they raised me, and cherish that they encouraged me to think for myself and not blindly follow others' rules. The Great Gatsby. It continues to teach me how hope is a two-ended street. One side that pushes a person to achieve greatness, and the other impairs the human's sense of reality. To stay between the opposition is what I strive for, despite the difficulty that follows. To live a life of tragedy is not inherently a complete loss, it's a choice. One must understand the risks that come with standing defiant by their vision at all costs. It may be lonely and dark to take a unique path, but in the end, it will be worth everything. The decider comes down to whether one achieves it or falls short. That's the gamble, and I hope I'm on the better half of it. Edit. Thanks for the awards, you silly scalawags. I mean, the Bible. I'm not religious, but it did change my perception of things. Catch-22. The Screwtape Letters by C.S. Lewis. Don Quixote. It shows that the world does not change. Slaughterhouse-5. 1984. Catch-22. Candide. Don Quixote. Sherlock Holmes. Moby Dick. Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. The Bell Jar. Sapiens by Yuval Noah Harari. The Catcher in the Rye, by J.D. Salinger. Junior year in high school. Never felt so seen in my life. I just remember the scene where he describing being the catcher and choking up. I think I wanted to be saved too. My son's named after Holden. Not identical, but close. Angela's Ashes. The poverty Frank McCourt grew up in was similar to my dad's early life. The book made me understand my dad's personality and belief systems better. Ishmael. I think anyone around 17 to 19 should read it. Stranger in a Strange Land. The Giving Tree. Where the Red Fern Grows. The Hiding Place by Corrie ten Boom. It was a great read during my formative years. It helped me understand not just what World War II was like from a survivor's standpoint, but the world at large. Also really helped me develop my faith. I would recommend this book to anyone. The Things They Carried by Tim O'Brien. Our history is divided up by our wars. Every single one of us at least knows a soldier, if not have one or more within our family. It's been that way for the history of our country, if not all of humanity. This book helps us civilians understand that there is no way we can possibly understand what a soldier has been through. Ecclesiastes from the Bible. I recommend reading it even if you aren't religious at all. It contains the wisdom of the ruler of Jerusalem, and it explores the inherent meaninglessness and brevity of life, but not in an overly depressing way. It's about finding meaning in life not by chasing the next big thing or reveling in whatever riches and spoils you can amass, but in appreciating the little things in life and living in the moment, appreciating what you've been given. The Unbearable Lightness of Being. The Alchemist for sure. Go read it if you haven't. I read Life of Pi, in which it basically said that an agnostic didn't have the courage to follow their convictions. It was the reason I became an atheist, which I'm sure wasn't the book's intention. Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury. For whatever reason, since I have read this book in junior high, it has totally changed my viewpoint on reading and education. This book is still to this day one of my favorite books to read. War and Peace by Leo Tolstoy. The characters taught me so much about life. The book is bursting with it. I recommend this book to anyone. The best book I have ever read. The Prophet by Khalil Gibran. Tuesdays with Morrie. 11.22.63 Stephen King. Things Fall Apart. Had to read it for school, but I actually really loved it. The theme, or one of them anyway, is that change is inevitable and you can't really stop it. After reading it, I sorta learned to stop taking things for granted and live in the moment. I highly recommend you read it. Meditations, Marcus Aurelius.